One of my subscribers asked me, why don't Russians value their own lives? Why are they willing to die in a war they don't even understand? Technology has advanced to the point where we can witness these senseless attacks in near real time, seeing Russian soldiers move forward like characters in a video game, only to be mowed down. My name is Elvira. I am an author born in the USSR, and today I will explain the mindset of these people, why they voluntarily go to war, and why they are willing to sell their lives and health for the price of a moderately expensive car. To understand how Russians perceive life and how much value they place on it, we first need to understand the conditions they live in. By 2022, at the start of the war in Ukraine, 41% of Russians claimed to have traveled abroad. But there's a catch. With their internal passport, Russian citizens can only visit a handful of former Soviet republics like Armenia and Belarus. To travel beyond that, they need a separate international passport, which only 29% of Russians actually possess. That means the vast majority have never set foot outside Russia. Their knowledge of the West comes through translations, primarily movies, books, and news reports filtered through the lens of state propaganda. They don't speak foreign languages. Only about 20% of Russians know even basic English, barely more than hello and goodbye. Most have no idea how to use Google Translate to find independent sources of information. But the biggest difference is not language or travel, it's poverty. Most Russians are far poorer than people in Western Europe or the US, and this shapes everything: their worldview, priorities, and opportunities. In my hometown, Nizhny Novgorod, earning $1,000 a month is considered a great salary. A teacher makes $500 a month. An engineer's pension is $250. Think about that. Imagine surviving day after day, year after year on these wages. A luxury three-bedroom apartment in downtown Nizhny Novgorod costs around $250,000. A modest apartment in a less prestigious area is about $50,000. But these are prices in a city of 1.2 million people, a major urban center. Most Russians, however, don't live in big cities. They live in small towns and villages where salaries of $300 or $400 a month are the norm, and their costs are often higher because they must travel to larger cities for medical care, building materials, car services, etc. Housing in these small towns is shockingly cheap. An apartment can cost as little as $5,000, maybe $10,000, but the condition of these homes is another story. Much of the housing stock is crumbling Soviet era construction. Infrastructure is failing, and utilities frequently shut off. Finding good teachers or doctors is nearly impossible. I once heard about a drunken pediatric surgeon who showed up intoxicated for work every day. He was fired multiple times yet always reinstated because there were no other pediatric surgeons. Social problems in these towns are rarely solved because there's no money or specialists to fix them. It's hard to find jobs and almost impossible to build a career. Young people try to escape to bigger cities, but many end up in low paying jobs as store clerks, construction workers, or drivers. They rent shared apartments, living not with families, but with roommates, just to afford the roof over their heads. The Russian world is inherently unjust. Your place in life and future opportunities are largely determined by where you were born. Growing up in Moscow is one experience. Living in Nizhny Novgorod, 440 kilometers away, is another. And life in Yuryevets, Ivanovo Oblast, a small depressed town, is something else entirely. things have shifted since the war in Ukraine began, at least in towns with military factories. Salaries have skyrocketed, and the big retailers are considering opening stores in small towns. They expect war related industries to thrive even after the conflict ends. Russia is preparing for long term confrontation with the world, and businesses are betting on it. But in towns without military or resource based industries, the local economy depends entirely on government salaries paid to bureaucrats, teachers, and retirees. These places are aging, decaying, and emptying out, with few opportunities to those who stay. And yet, even in these towns, almost everyone has a smartphone. They spend hours online watching how others live. They see the chasm between their lives and those of successful people. People who buy their kids iPhones, vacation in Turkey and Thailand, drive new cars and build vacation homes. They understand that they will never have that life. They don't even have the tools to change their fate. And for many, this isn't just an economic divide, it's also an ethnic divide. Many of the poorest communities are in Russia's national republics, places where people don't look like ethnic Russians and speak Russian with an accent. And the great Russian world is in no rush to embrace them. They are outsiders in their own country, poor, isolated, and without a future. And when a recruiter offers a chance to fight, to earn money, to matter, what other choice do they have? Most of the people who go to the Ukrainian war aren't brainwashed fanatics. They are men who see no other way out. For them, life itself is cheap because it has never been worth much to begin with. Imagine this. You are a 30-year-old man living in a small Siberian settlement. Most of the population consists of elderly women, leftovers from the 1960s when they arrived to build socialism and never left. There are no jobs. The houses are falling apart, but you can't sell them because no one wants to buy. The men drink, half have been to prison. No one has the money to live. There's only one school, and you can guess the level of education there. The nearest hospital is 40 kilometers away in the district center, where medical care is stuck in the 1960s, if not worse. Every person craves respect. In places like this, patriotism is not just a political tool, it's a lifeline. When your own life feels worthless, being part of a great and powerful country is the only way to feel like you matter. Men especially need to feel needed, to be seen as providers and protectors by the women and children around them. Now imagine that every day TV and social media bombard you with one message. You have a chance to change your fate. You see strong, heroic men in military uniforms. They look powerful. They call you to join them. They promise adventure, honor, and money, huge money by your standards. You don't know what a Ukrainian Nazi is, and you don't care. You've never met one. You just want to become a hero, to finally earn the respect of your family, to stop being a drunken nobody and instead become part of the elite that the television keeps talking about. Are you afraid of dying or being crippled? You try not to think about it. You don't want to ruin the dream before it even begins. If nothing changed, you'd probably end up dead or crippled anyway, just from living the life you already have. Besides, people like you never learned to think ahead. No one taught you how, not your parents, not your teachers. Decision making is a skill, and for generations the Russian state has systematically crashed it. For men like you, war is a once in a lifetime chance, a social elevator that would finally lift you out of poverty. Among my childhood friends from Nizhny Novgorod, not a single one went to war. But I grew up in a different world. My friends either immigrated or became highly paid professionals. Some even work in government. But my friend Lena, Her world is completely different. She knows many people who went to war. Two of her cousins are already dead in Ukraine. Others are wounded, missing, or deserters. Lena was born in a small town near the Belarusian border, and the life she describes is unimaginable to me. In her town, violent crimes is not shocking. Going to prison is just part of life. Almost all men drink. Some are already full blown alcoholics. Others just drink a few beers every day. No one cares about a healthy lifestyle. Men die 15, 20 years younger than women. Seatbelts, no one wears them. Safety regulations, ignored. Smoking, normal. Drugs, a common pastime. In Lena's stories, death is always present. Someone fell off a roof and broke their neck. Someone drowned. Someone got into a fight and died. She doesn't even realize how horrifying this sounds because for her it's normal. This way of life didn't appear overnight. Under the Soviets and before that under the Tsars, a village man's fate was the same. He was powerless, unable to provide a better life for his family and dreaming of an escape. For generations, military service was that escape. It was still a way out. At the very least, it meant seeing the world beyond your village. It's important to know that not all Russian soldiers in Ukraine ended up there out of desperation or poverty. Lena, my friend, knows a man who was a high ranking factory manager in her hometown. His wife cheated on him, and he decided to go to war to get revenge. Not on Ukrainians. He had nothing personal against them, but on his wife. If he died, she would regret it. If he survived, he would return home with a fortune and she would regret it even more. In this world, moral arguments don't exist. Right and wrong only apply to their own. Strangers are irrelevant, automatically seen as enemies. I have an entire video on how in Russia black has become white and morality has been turned upside down. Watch it if you want to understand more. Of course, there are also career soldiers, nationalists who dream of fighting for the Russian world, and conscripts, 18 to 20-year-old boys forced to serve under the law. Officially, conscripts should only be stationed in the rear, but in reality, some of them are thrown to the front lines. When Russian officers receive recruits like this, they know full well that they will never become real soldiers. At least not in the time frame the high commanders demand. Most of the soldiers aren't physically strong or particularly healthy because healthcare and sports facilities in Russia's rural areas are terrible. So, how do they make up for this? Human wave attacks. Soldiers are expendable. Throw them forward, count the bodies, and request more. They advance only because there are so many of them, while the Ukrainians are few. The casualties are catastrophic. Why do they keep going forward? Because the Russian army has perfected the art of persuading. Its methods mirror those of the Gulag, where prisoners were broken into submission. I have an entire video on this. Be sure to watch it. The army is divided into unofficial castes. Privileged units close to the commanders, supplied with decent food and safety. Expendables, cannon fodder, whose only duty is to die when ordered. Those at the top stay safe only as long as others keep marching forward. It's the same system as in Russian prisons, where high ranking criminals brutalize others to maintain their own privileges. Soldiers who hesitate are shamed. You are letting your brothers down. You are a coward. Everyone is a hero. Why are you a disgrace? Or they are beaten, robbed of their food and warm clothing, or outright executed. Sometimes officers create punishment pits, a hole in the ground or a basement where disobedient soldiers are thrown and publicly humiliated. This torture ensures that others obey out of sheer horror. If you've watched Game of Thrones, think of Theon Greyjoy and Ramsay Bolton. No matter what Theon did, Ramsay always found new ways to dangle hope in front of him, only to rip it away, breaking him completely. That's how Russian officers break their men. A soldier can't go home. He can't refuse orders. He depends entirely on his commanders, who control his food, fuel, ammunition, and even his ability to call home. He has only two ways out: get a serious but non lethal wound and be evacuated, or climb the ranks of brutality by tormenting new recruits and sending them to die in his place. Wouldn't Russian officers want a stronger, more effective army? Maybe, but they don't have the option. Moscow keeps sending them defective human material. They are ordered to produce quick results, and they don't have time for proper training. So they focus on survival and personal gain. Some loot, some collaborate with drug dealers, some sell weapons and fuel, arming criminal groups instead of their own men, and some sell the most valuable privilege of all: access to women. Prostitutes from across Russia have flooded military camps, making insane amounts of money. Lena's acquaintance, the man who joined the war to get revenge on his wife, told her that prostitutes earn $200 an hour, and soldiers gladly pay, knowing they might not live to see another day. Are there any exceptions? Probably. Some units may maintain a sense of humanity, especially in roles that require highly trained specialists rather than expendable bodies. And there must be resistance within the ranks. Some officers have surely been killed by their own men, but we'll never hear about it. It was stray Ukrainian bullet. Oops. The system will continue as long as the war continues. Even after the war, not much will change because this has always been the Russian army under the Tsars, under the Soviets, and now. If you found this video valuable, consider supporting my channel by giving a super thanks or clicking the join button. If you're interested in historical fiction about the Russian Civil War, check out my novel Russian Treasures on Amazon. It offers a deep look into the Russian way of waging war.